Josh, tell us how you ended up in the fitness industry. Give us the entire backstory, how you ended up where you are today.
So I ended up, and it was kind of like a really slow road. Like, if you think about the actual fitness industry and being in it officially, it's been since like May 2021 when I started J Hubbard Fitness. But it goes a little bit further back than that. So obviously at school, that was like one of the only things I excelled at and really enjoyed. And my GCSEs, I actually came out of school. I think there's like 11 or 12 that you could get. I ended up with like one and a half, and the half of a GCSE was PE. So clearly I was all right at PE, and the other one was English. So I've always enjoyed like sports and whatnot. But then when I joined the army back in 2011, that kind of segued me into more of a sort of taking it a little bit more seriously because obviously like you have to be fit to fight, and that's like your main role is you get paid to be fit and look after yourself in order to serve like king, queen, country, all that sort of stuff. And it just made your life easier. And then after about 5 years, I think it was of serving in the army, I got the opportunity to go on a PTI course, a physical training instructors course, which was like an 8 week intense crash course from both a physical aspect, which got absolutely thrashed, but then also the education was very thick and fast, kind of like when you do like your level three, but it was like in person, so it was quite it was good, and you could ask the questions. It was very they were very knowledgeable in their sort of responses and whatnot, and mentoring you. And then after that, and I got my badge of honor of being a PTI in the army. I was then left to train like the entire battalion and get them ready for essentially for war. And it was like my job. I was in charge of like my company, which is like 100 blokes. And obviously you plan the sessions, you come up with a training program, and then you just take that every single morning. So that was like chucked in the deep end on an instructor level, public speaking in front of like 100 odd people, being the SMI in front of that. And then when I got to around about 10 years into my career, I'd kind of done pretty much everything that I'd wanted to. And at this point, we had our first child, Esme, um, and at the beginning, it was fairly easy to sort of just have sort of one child and still be in the army. But then I started thinking of the bigger picture, like if we had more or when she grows up, what would then be the plan? Like with me being away all the time, flying here, flying there. So then I started looking at to what is if I was going to leave. I initially started looking at becoming like a lorry driver or just anything that could get me out of the army. But then realized like why don't I do something I actually enjoy and I'm passionate about, which is obviously health and fitness and helping people. So then took the plunge around about it was 2020, yeah, 2021 at the end of May. So it was like during lockdown, when I was like lay on the living room floor on the rug, and I just decided to make an Instagram page, J Hubbard Coaching. Launched a page, expecting it to take off. It didn't at all. It was like a proper slog, man. Like one client, like no clients for the first year. Like one or two clients in like the second year. Laura kept questioning, like, is this going to be all right when you come to leave the army?
Should you go back to the army, Josh?
Well, luckily, I was still in the army at this point,
Okay,
so
okay.
I planned for that sort of safety net.
Yes.
And just kept just I was just like right in my head it can't fail, right? It's
Yeah.
just like if you keep rolling you can't it can't fail.
Where do you think, just sorry to interject there, where do you think that mindset came from?
Definitely from through the military, like the mental resilience that we sort of do there, but also and I think this is probably like I try and like instill and talk about this quite regularly for sort of our clients, is like when you push yourself like physically around like when you are doing any form of exercise, that's like a great opportunity to literally like challenge that little voice that crops up and build that resilience and just go that one extra step, that one extra minute or whatever. And it can prepare you so much in like real life as opposed to being in those actual dangerous life-threatening situations. That's a great way to do it in a safe environment and challenge yourself and build that resilience. So from doing that definitely and being pushed beyond sort of limits through the physical aspect and fitness.
Yeah, 100%. I see that in entrepreneurs all the time, like people who had maybe like a background in sport or a background in the army, or even for myself, I think going through the physical challenges of trying to stay fit and healthy and going through training. I don't think if I didn't go through that process and, build a bit of confidence through, I'm doing hard things and actually, feeling the benefits of it, and then kind of pushing yourself more and more when you feel uncomfortable. The ripple effect that has on you, like backing yourself to open up a business or whatever that project is that you want to do. I think it's a massive thing that people not undervalue, but don't really recognize the benefits of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So what happened then? So you were obviously struggling at the time to get clients. You were still in the army. There was a little bit of doubt, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, of course it was, yeah. But like I said, like in my head, like it's kind of it's like weird. Like if I will say that I'm planning on doing something or I'm thinking I'm doing something, I always just think that it's going to work out. Like, and Laura will probably say, like, in in quite a funny way, to be fair, like my partner, like it's Josh Hubbard's way or no way. Like whatever it is, it's going to work out. Like in any way, and obviously that'll bite me in the arse 9 times out of 10. With sort of being like that, but it is it works in a great way, like most times. Like, um,
You only have to be right once, and then it's like you can be wrong them 9 times. But if it works out once, then it's like, what I told you so it was going to work out at the end. But I think you need to have that mindset, because it's the same with someone like pursuing a weight loss goal, right? Like it's like you're training really hard, you're getting your steps in, you're tracking your food, or you're trying really hard, you're getting to bed early, and like nothing's happened. And then if you just have the mindset, well, nothing's happened, so I'm just going to stop, then you're never going to get the results you want. But if like you're a firm believer that, okay, just continue to, immerse yourself in the process, don't give up, and like eventually things do fall into place because you're essentially pushing the door down.
Yeah, and I've literally had that conversation this week with a client. Like it's one of those frequent questions that doubt creeps in, and obviously that's your sort of role there is to sort of rationalize that, help them, and then of course steer the course. And then guess what? They see that progress, and it just reaffirms it to them that they can do that if they just sort of have that conversation with themselves, can't
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself during your time in the army? Like what type of lad were you before you went in versus when you came out of the army?
completely like complete different people. I don't even know if they'd be friends now, if I'm being honest. Like and I seen some that you put up the other day actually about like nowadays like it's glorified to not sort of have children and that grind sort of culture and that hustle culture.
Yeah.
And you were saying like some of your best friends that were absolute
Menace.
lunatics,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
want of a better word,
yeah.
and then having a child, becoming a father has literally just put them to that next level and it's matured them and changed them. And it resonated really, really like so much with me because that's exactly who I was. A young lad in the army living in London, absolute tearaway. Even before that, a lot of drink, drugs from the early age of like 13 up to like mid sort of 20, like 25 essentially.
Yeah.
Like the army didn't essentially cure that. It just invited me into like even bigger drinking culture.
Mm.
Obviously, as the army is, it's just full of absolute lunatics who enjoy it.
Yeah,
Can get up in the morning, go for like an 8 mile run, and then they're good to go. Like that was me.
yeah.
I was a proper lads lad, and then got to a point where I probably was kind of forced actually from living that lifestyle.
Mm.
It catches up with you at a certain point. It's not like physically I was still fit, able. It was more the sort of the mental
Yeah,
sort of mental
burnt
health.
out at both ends of the candle, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like anxiety, like critical anxiety would start to creep in. And then I'd start to like use drink to sort of mask that. And then that sort of opened up another sort of can of worms. And then I decided to go like completely sober.
Mhm.
And I went sober for like just over 5 years.
Unreal.
And then that's when this all came about, to be fair.
Yeah.
With me starting the business, having children, and this is the person I am today, business owner, complete different person to who I was.
Quality. And do you think like having that personal responsibility has really helped you to be more of a responsible man. Like the fact that, you have a business that you have to show up for, you have a family that you need to show up for. Like I presume, like a lot of people are kind of afraid of that responsibility, I think, but I think it helps people to grow as humans and build their character through having responsibility.
Yeah, it gives you, and I know like everyone says like live life on purpose and you must have a purpose, but when you've got little tiny human beings that they didn't ask to be here, you brought them into the world in whether it is intentional or intentional, like they're your responsibility and you need to make sure you can one show up as that role model for them, but also give them the best life that you can. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I plan to do. Is I didn't have a bad childhood. It was absolutely mega. But there's things that I want my children to experience that I didn't get to.
Mhm.
So that's what my sort of plan is, obviously, with that.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you more about fatherhood as well. But before I do, just so I don't forget, because you touched on how you were like training lads in the army and stuff like that as well. So what have you found were are the key differences between coaching people in the military and getting them fit versus like now essentially training civilians?
So the main difference is the motivations are completely different. Like in the army, it's if I'm being honest, in the army, it's relatively easy to motivate somebody because you can you you can give them burpees, you can give them push-ups, you know what I mean, you can take them on the back area and you can like get them to run like different drills. So
Yeah,
you
they're
can
they're in they're in that environment anyway to train, aren't they?
yeah, exactly. So you could just turn that training into something that's a little bit more tailored to be like torturous.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you know what I mean? You can motivate them with that,
yeah.
and also pay as well if they disobey or if you disobey or do something that you shouldn't. Then you'll have pay taken off you. You'll get charged. So there's loads of different things. Get sent to prison. So motivation a little bit different, but
Yeah.
with civilians, like you can't speak to people like that. Like they're paying you to help them, and also from what I realised through my time in the army and through instructing recruits at that higher level when they were coming through, the instructors, or when I was being instructed as well, that were screaming, shouting, trying to like belittle you and just make your life hell.
Mm,
You never learn anything from them.
mm,
Their message, their noise, it was just lost. Like it
yeah.
just went through you. You just switch off to anything they say. So if they had anything valuable to say, you had zero respect for that person, so you'd never take it in. So that's the way I like to coach is being on that sort of human level and having that compassionate approach as to seeing what it is that's actually causing that problem and trying to get the motivation from them as to why they want to do it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because when you're in the army, right, it's almost like you're just kind of blindly following in instructions, and they're gonna do it regardless because of all these kind of external motivators and punishments. But like when you're outside of that, like the person in front of you has a choice whether to listen to you or not listen to you, whether to do the thing or to not do the thing, whether to show up or to not to show up, and essentially instead of external motivators, you need to kind of create that internal motivation between themselves to actually do the thing. So it's like it's the big difference between coaching and instructing probably.
Yeah, massively. And encouragement as well.
Yeah.
And encouraging that person because most people probably don't really have anybody that actually believes in them. Like they probably did once upon a time, like when they were little and their family, their mom and dad probably did when they were little. But as you get older, there's not many people that you have that really sort of encourage you and remind you that you're doing well and sort of praise you. So that's a huge part of it because then it just instills that belief in them and they're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because no one said that before.
Yeah.
And
We,
that's
we
a real good motivator.
we all love being told that we're doing well. I love being
Yeah.
told that I'm
Oh,
doing
I love
well.
it. Validation. Absolutely love it.
I don't care where you are in your life or your journey or how high up
Yeah.
or where you're starting. Everyone likes positive reinforcement for something good that they're doing. So what type of clients do you work with now at the moment? What are the kind of struggles that they have when they come to work with you?
So we work with women, and I don't really put an age range on it, but we typically work with nobody under the age of sort of 25.
Mhm.
It's like quite a broad bracket of like 25 to like 57. No, sorry, 60. I think 65 is our oldest client. And to be honest, from the age of 57 and upwards, my ideal client, absolute legends. they're incredible humans. So yes, we work with women, and the majority of the struggles we tend to find are obviously weight loss is a huge one. That's the main thing that we sell is obviously we help with fat loss, but obviously as you know it's much deeper than that. We also a lot of the struggles are women who don't want to be in the photos or
Mm.
they're sort of erased from that family memory because they'll go on holiday or whatever. So body image is also a big thing that we focus on within that. But then also again just trying to sort of capture the main sort of three, it's just having little to no activity or not having that education around what they should be doing
Yeah.
in terms of those sort of health seeking behaviors from how to structure a meal, how to be active,
Yeah.
how to structure training, how long they should be training for. So
What
they're
are
the
what are
main
some of
things.
the misconceptions they have about weight loss before they start? What are some of the things that you see coming up?
Some of the things coming up are again like Martin McDonald touched on this quite well with obviously the aggressive diet, where everyone always says I prefer to lose it slower because then that means I'm going to maintain it for longer.
Mhm.
So they think like slow, and I completely get it. And in some cases, yeah, like sustainable fat loss is going to be great for that. But that's one thing they believe if they lose it fast, then they will regain it just as fast.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably like an industry sort of wide one.
Yeah, I think that definitely comes from coaches, which like there is wisdom to that in terms of if you're gonna build behavior change and habits,
Yes.
it's gonna take a long time for that to happen. It's gonna take, a couple of months, if not years, and but then people think that has to be the same way, reducing people's calories when in fact, like if people see weight loss rapidly, what does it do? It motivate. Oh my God, I've after losing 3 pounds this week. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna be more engaged in the process that they want to achieve. So I think that's where a lot of coaches kind of get a little bit confused about the actual the strategic way to lose the weight versus the actual behavior change as well. You have something on your Instagram about the 4-5 method, I think it is, and the Spark method. Could you explain a little bit to the listeners what that is?
Yeah, so the 4x5 method. All this came about recently from I work with a girl called Ella. And the whole thing of this was I've been trying to work on a client journey for since since I'd started I'm always constantly evolving and trying to like how can we deliver the best journey and whatnot. And I was just going around in circles, and then I came across Ella from speaking to Lewis. And the main thing that we focused on there was obviously building a client journey that's unique and then looking at your unique sort of processes and frameworks. And at this point, I didn't really have any. They were just like regurgitated things from that you see and you pick up and you're like, that works well from like precision nutrition and you know what I mean, little
Yeah.
things like that you'd use. So when I started working with her, I really sort of done like a bit of a deep dive into it to see if I had any methods and how it would essentially come across in the coaching. So the 4x5 method came about from mainly, as you know, from clients. They always want like new meal ideas, recipes, this and that, and it's like it's not the thing that you really need. You've already got it all there. You just
Mm.
need something that you can look back on, and you can just go right. That's what I enjoy most of the time, and there it is. So it's essentially you'll pick 5 breakfasts of your favorite breakfasts, 5 lunches, 5 dinners, and 5 snacks, and you just put it down on the sheet. And that way, then you can either laminate it, put it on the fridge. So whenever you come to doing your food shop, you're like, boom, yeah. Because most people are creatures of habit anyway, and they eat the majority of the same foods, but they just need it in front of them to be able to see. Even if you've got like 2 sheets, do you know what I mean? Like that's probably all the foods you're going to be eating, and you'll just recycle them. So then we created that, sent it out to everybody, and it's been a massive hit. And it's reduced that overwhelm of their sort of
I was
eating.
I
All
was
that.
about to say it probably reduces that decision fatigue. It's like I know what I'm gonna have now. So like once people have like an overwhelming schedule, they have to bring the kids here, they have to go to work, they have to do things. The last thing that they want then is to be like having to try and figure it out all themselves all the time. So yeah, I think that's really good. Is it Ella Khan? Is that the girl?
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah. I
cool.
had I had Ella on the podcast there. I think last year. She's very, very knowledgeable. I really enjoyed that
Yeah.
episode I did with her.
Yeah, she's great, man. But she's like a psychologist from like
Yeah,
for that's like her background.
yeah,
Yeah, she's really really good at what she does, and the message, the way she gets it across, it just really resonates.
yeah. Yeah. What other misconceptions do you find that your clients have? Because I think this will really resonate to anyone listening in terms of they might be just starting off their weight loss journey and, they've heard, they should do this, they should do that. Like, what about even exercise? Like, what are some of the misconceptions that you find that your clients have before they start with you? What are kind of some things you have to coach them on or just guide them in regards to their exercise?
It is that they feel, and this puts them off like across the board. They think they need to be training multiple times a week for 60 odd minutes, and it has to be in a gym, is what they tend to think. And then obviously that's like a huge barrier to entry. And they're like, absolutely not. Like, one, they can't find that 60 minutes. And then two, like the transition to and from the gym takes 30 minutes. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's the biggest thing. And then when we break it down, so we've got a thing called, again, it's called 320 Fit. So it's just 3 20-minute sessions scattered throughout the week. Again, that each session's tailored to if they are in a gym or if they're at home or whatever equipment that they've got. So it looks different for everybody. And then if they can't commit to that, then we'll just drop it to 3 10-minute sessions across the board. And usually what we tend to find is once they get going,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Even if it's 10 minutes, they get going. They end up saying, oh, I've added extra sets on. I've done an extra one of this. I went for a walk after.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily saying, here's a 45-minute session, follow it to the button, absolutely nail it. Because that, for a lot of my clients particularly, they'll be like, oh, it's too much for me. But you do that sort of dangles a carrot, and then they tend to do more themselves.
Yeah, you're reducing the barrier to entry. Like if you're telling someone that they need to do an hour workout and they're like, "Where am I going to find an hour in the day?" I remember talking to a PT before, and I think he like it was because it was for the Gen Pop client, someone who hadn't been exercising or moving or was completely sedentary, and instead of like 3 or 2 1 hour sessions a week, he was doing like a 15 minute session every day, and like it was just like 3 or 4 full body things, and like again, it's like, once a client starts that the motivation is really high and you don't want to kind of diminish that either, whether that's like,
Yeah.
oh, your calories are too low. Well, I'm losing weight and I'm feeling good. Well, then like don't get in the way of them if they're feeling good. And I think it's the same with exercise as well. It's like if they're feeling good and they're moving their body, then like I think we have this kind of misconception as coaches that it has to be 3 or 4 1 hour sessions because that's probably what we do, and the calories have to be just like 500 calories under our maintenance because that's the generic advice that we would give. But yeah, I really like that, even like just 3 10-minute sessions a week. And I think you had something on your Instagram as well where you got some client really really fantastic results and they weren't even going to the gym. Is that correct?
Yes, I think you're referring to Violetta.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so her circumstances were again completely unique to most people's, where she was a stay-at-home mum. She had 2 kids. Her husband had recently been in a car accident, so she was having to care for him as well. So for the first sort of 4 months of us working together, she couldn't actually exercise, so there wasn't really any scope for her. Or the conversation was that even if she identified a little bit of time, we just sort of agreed that it would put too much stress
Yeah.
on her sort of day-to-day life. And fat loss was the main goal with this, whilst obviously trying to support everybody.
Yeah.
So she was in like a fairly mild deficit. And the two things that she did is she was very consistent with her nutrition, and she made sure she made the most of getting out walking with the kids and getting sunlight, etc. And she lost like 4 stone in like 4 months by sort of following that. And then obviously went on to then join the gym when life sort of allowed it, and yeah, completely changed her life.
I think that's like a really good message there. It's like because a lot of people will think that, you know what I mean, I have to suffer in order to get the result I want. And uh, if if you understand your client's specific situation and all these kind of external stresses that are kind of out of their control, you just thrown like intense exercise at them or a really like extreme deficit at that stage, like it's probably going to be the last thing that's going to help them because they're already, on high alerts, high stress, and you're just uh contributing to their struggle rather than trying to make the process as easy as possible, which will actually give them the result in the end run.
Yeah, and it was nice as well because obviously being able to sort of support her through that as well. 'Cause obviously being like a stay-at-home mom, I mean, being a mom, being a dad, it's quite a lonely sort of job. particularly with what she was going through. She said if it wasn't for the coaching, she said it would have turned out very differently. So she was very grateful for that, and I was very privileged and honoured to be able to sort of be there at that sort of time of her life.
And you know what? You use a really important word there where you said I was able to be there to support her, and I think that's what a lot of people kind of forget what coaching is. Like people think coaching is the meal plans, the workout plans, the step targets, and stuff like that. Like that's not it. Them things are fine, and like obviously there are add-ons that you get with it, but it's the support, the accountability, the having someone to kind of walk through ideas or circumstances or situations like that's essentially that's where the value comes from, and that stops people from self-sabotaging or quitting on themselves and stuff like that when they're able to kind of have someone there to support them or probably to help them to see that they're not doing too bad, they're actually doing really well. And if we look at all the circumstances that they're under, whether that's they're supporting someone else, they're working a full-time job, they have kids to look after, like for you to be able to do a little bit under all them circumstances, that's a huge win. And it's being able to do them little things consistently over a long period of time. That's where the results are going to come from anyway, just like your client showed.
Yeah, and you just reminded me there, like, and made me sort of reflect on the conversations that we have on like a daily basis with everyone, and even on like the coaching calls. It's very rarely about your calories, your steps. It's not about any of that. Like, yeah, some of it's going to be like looking at the training, movement patterns, and all that sort of stuff, and increasing weight there. But it's not. It's about like the behaviors. How can they do this? How are they feeling in this? And then asking and having them conversations back and forth. Yeah.
Mm,
Don't know why I never thought of it like that before, but yeah, I don't really talk to them about that.
yeah. Yeah, it's very true. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out their weight loss journey? All right, so maybe it's someone that is listening to this call now. Maybe they can't afford a coach at the moment. Maybe they're looking to um, get started on their journey. What advice would you have for them for someone starting out?
The Probably the first thing that I would look at doing, and this will, and the reason I focus so much on this one is because it would like spill into every other area and like give you that energy to actually do other things, and that would be focus on having three meals at specific times, and looking at breaking that plate up between a source of protein, carbs, and then having vegetables, fruit, some fiber on there as well. And then look at maintaining those times at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then seeing how, when you start fueling properly, that starts to, one, you can start thinking a little bit clearly. If you suffer with sort of any sort of natural stresses and you are fueling yourself with food, it's going to like bring that stress down a little bit more because you've not got the hunger as an added stress. It's not going to amplify it. And then you'll probably see that you'll want to do more things because you've got more clearer mind and you've got more energy to fuel that. So I'd probably say that to begin with,
Yeah,
because that will spill
yeah.
into other areas.
I think that's a great piece of advice, and it's something that I relay as well with my clients. Like I think one of the mistakes that we make or people make is that when they want to lose weight and they're already under a kind of stress with their life, is they just enhance that stress by trying to be over restrictive, whether that's they cut it down to like one meal or two meals a day, and they're essentially running on fumes, and they don't really understand how they yes, while you might need to cut down your calories to lose weight, you also need a sufficient amount of calories to perform throughout the day. Not just in your training, but just in general life as well, whether you're minding the kids or you're trying to perform and work, or just bodily function. Like you need
Yeah.
energy, and energy comes from food. And having maybe three meals throughout the day at the same time, with all them nutrients that you said, is a great way of feeling better. So therefore, you move a little bit more, you have a more pep in your step, you feel more motivated then maybe to get out for that walk or to train, or not going to bed hungry and having a good night's sleep, and all them things will contribute to you getting the results you want.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're already living a fairly stressful life anyway, you cutting down even more so on food whilst trying to do everything else, you're probably going to snap at some point, and that's going to then create a big drama. And you're probably going to then look to food to then get past that, which
Yeah,
is going to be counterintuitive. Whereas
yeah.
if you're fed, it's going to minimize that chance because you're not going to be as grumpy or you're not going to snap. So that again, it works quite well with that.
Yeah, I think this is why people get a little bit confused. It's like we're telling you to eat so that you lose weight, and they're like, the problem is that I'm eating and I'm not losing weight. But yeah, it's all them external things
Yeah.
that make gives us that drive to kind of eat them hyper palatable foods instead. And that's why I always say to like my clients, it's like, yeah, you can have snacks, but snacks aren't a meal, and I'd rather you have a couple of meals because it'll keep you satiated, it'll keep you full, and you'll probably reduce your overall caloric intake as a byproduct of eating proper meals rather than kind of you know on the go having a fucking protein bar and a Red Bull and running off steams and then being exhausted and hungry by the end of the night, and then that's where maybe stress eating or overeating and that comes into play.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snacks weren't designed to fill you up, man.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about then coaching. So we have a couple of kind of personal trainers and stuff like that that listen to the podcast as well. What challenges did you face? I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit as well, but like, what challenges have you faced on your journey as a coach, and how have you kind of overcome them?
Um, Mainly the feeling of, and obviously you was at Lewis's event when I sort of spoke about that quite briefly, but the feeling of not being good enough as a coach, and this only comes not through sort of fear of speaking to clients or delivering to clients or anything like that. It's if I'm around other coaches, I will always fear that they're judging me because I'm not good enough. That So that's quite a huge one, and I think from Lewis's last event last week, that was a big highlighted thing that come from a few of the speakers from MT, from Ali as well. That coaches aren't going to buy from you. Like don't care what they think. Like that's the thing. If that's the one thing holding you back from impacting and helping more people, then you're doing your potential clients a disservice because you're not being out there enough. And I do know enough. I am a good coach. We get great results. We change people's lives on a different level. So that is just that sort of self-doubt within myself. And I'm not too sure where that comes from, if I'm being honest. I think I might have an idea, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Well, like I think it's really valuable that you say that, because like I think we all have that to a degree in any kind of area that we are. Like if you look at your clients, for instance, they might be in the gym and they might be comparing themselves to other people in the gym, and how they look or what they're lifting and stuff like that. And us as coaches will turn around and say, "Oh no, you shouldn't compare yourself to anyone else," and then we'll go and do the exact same thing, but from a business perspective. I think it's just it's in us as humans, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, your different context.
Yeah, different context. So how do you think you've not? I like it's like anything else. Like it's not a on off switch. All right, first I felt inferior, now I feel superior and stuff like that. It's like it's obviously a constant a battle. There's obviously just constant tension between. But how do you? How do you deal with that? Because I'm sure there's personal trainers on here and online coaches on here who experience the exact same thing. As like they might be in a room and they might feel inferior, or they might be on social media comparing themselves to, oh, that coach has that many clients, that coach has this many subscribers, or that coach is making this. So like, how do we navigate that while still trying to you know pursue whatever it is that we're trying to pursue?
I mean, there's no right or wrong answer for this, but my this is like my immediate sort of response, and that helps me and gives me that instant gratification from not feeling like that and the overwhelm is I literally just went onto Instagram and I just started unfollowing all the coaches that I would either feel sort of jealous of or would compare myself to. Because when I'd see them pop up, it would just give me that instant feeling of and then it will then affect the rest of my day or what I'm going to do next
Yes.
that could have a massive positive like impact.
Yeah.
So I just try and protect my energy that way. Just surround myself with a group of individuals like yourself, like inside the amplifier, that are all here trying to raise each other up. And yeah, I just try and eliminate that, and sort of ignorance is bliss, I suppose.
Yeah,
And
I
just
love that, because it's like I always say that to clients as well. It's like your diet isn't just the food that you eat, it's also what you consume. And if you're consuming things on social media, that's having a negative impact. I think the problem is a lot of people like they're following things on social media and not having the self-awareness that, oh, this is actually making me feel shit about myself. This isn't actually helping me. And they continue to scroll and follow. And I think that like you should curate your feed to, be more positive to help you. Like my feed is literally just memes and dogs. That's all it is. It's just memes and dogs. That's all my algorithm is. And like I think you're right. I think if you take that back to like the perspective of a client, it's like, they might be, all their feed might be curated with like lots of diet culture or stuff like that, or cosmetics and companies telling them that they need to change their nose or change their eyes, or that they have cellulite or hip dips and stuff like that. And then you're essentially as a client who's looking to lose weight, you're constantly at war with yourself and constantly picking yourself apart. So again, I think it's like, you have the perspective of a client who probably falls into that category. And then you also have the perspective of a coach who falls into that category as well. It's like, oh, this person's making this amount of money. This business coach is telling me that I'm not making enough money. This person's telling me this. So yeah, I think looking at your diet as a whole, not just food, but also what you're consuming, especially on social media, I think that's going to be really important. So I think that's great advice. What misconceptions did you have about running an online coaching business before you started? How did you think it was going to go compared to how it goes now?
Well, for some reason, in my head, I had no idea about business, never ran a business in my life, never even wanted a business, didn't even know what a business was essentially. Like I was just in the army, always in full-time pay, no dramas, get the paycheck at the end of the month, go blow it, and then I knew it was coming back. So the misconception I had is that when I launched it, I was saying to Laura, I was like, I'll be sold out. This will be sold out. This is going to go off. For 2 years, it didn't go off, Carl. 2 years, man. It made less than like £1,000 in 2 years. The business did, but and that was a really humbling, important sort of learning curve for me. And it also gave me a bit more of a fire in my belly because I know a lot of people who I would speak to, coaches at the same time. Because like back in like 2020, COVID, loads of people went online, right? And it was like a real big sort of craze. So there's a lot of people, and there's a load of people who we were all supporting each other at the time, like liking each other's content, all that sort of stuff. None of them are in the business anymore. They all packed it in. So that gave me a real sort of drive to like, no one will stick this out long enough. So if I continue to stick it out, then I'm going to succeed.
That's a great mindset to have, by the way, because and I think I can't remember the statistics. People use it all the time that like most personal trainers or people in the fitness industry leave after 2 years, like a significant number. So then to have that mindset that, oh well, if I just stick it out a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer, then I'm gonna get ahead of the pack, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly what sort of happened, really. Not through them dropping out, of course.
Yeah.
It's not like they dropped out and there was more people for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like it's the mindset of just stick at it, stick at it, stick at it, while also getting better or more efficient at the tasks that you need to get more efficient at.
Yeah, like when I first was delivering it, I think I was using like a platform called like Train Heroic, where it was just like literally training plans, and you'd build it on there. Check-ins were done via WhatsApp from me sending a message manually out of like 6 questions on like a Monday because I couldn't afford Typeform or couldn't afford anything for the coaching. But then it slowly evolves, doesn't it? It slowly picks up, a little bit of software gets introduced, and then it starts snowballing from there. But I thought it was going to be really easy. I really, really did. I was really naive to it. I didn't understand anything about it whatsoever. And I was quickly humbled.
Can I ask you a question then? Do you think that it was better to go in ignorant and to not realize how difficult it was going to be to run a business?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I'm always like people ask me. So when I quit drinking and went completely sober for like just over 5 years, people were like, "Oh, do you wish you'd have done this sooner?" And then I really sort of, instead of just going, "Oh yeah, of course I did," like I actually thought about the sort of response, and it wouldn't have come any sooner. Like yeah,
Mm,
like people always tell you, don't they? Oh, alcohol is bad, drugs are bad, but like you don't. No one cares. Like you don't care if someone tells you that advice.
yeah.
You need to actually live that advice. I
Mm,
mean, I think there's only a few people that would go, unless they had like a major traumatic event, like their dad was an alcoholic and they grew up to not, you know what I mean? Like, but I think for most people, you have to live it to be like, you know what, yeah, fair enough. And then it comes that perfect time where you've experienced enough to then make the choice, like, no, enough is enough now. No matter what people say, I think you've got to sort of live it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, there's all these lessons throughout history that like people constantly come up and say, and like, but it doesn't matter how many times people say it, you have to experience it yourself to learn the lesson. I think that's far more powerful. Like, I think there are really smart people who can learn off other people's mistakes, but I think like there are some mistakes that you have to make yourself in order to really understand them. Like, I don't know, money won't bring me happiness, but like
Yeah.
some money will. Do you know what I mean? Or like
Yeah.
money won't make me happy, but I'd rather figure that out with money than without it. You
Yeah.
know?
And that's probably the most important one, really, the money one. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
If you were to start all over again, what would you tell yourself?
to buckle up. Um, um, it's a really, really good question, man. I don't know if I'm being honest. It would probably, I don't know, Carl. I
Doesn't
really
even, not even, let's say, because like you just said, it's like the lessons are only going to come when they're going to come, right? So it's like it's not like, oh, would you have stopped sooner? No, you would have probably continued. You probably would have went on the exact path that you were going to go on. Even in terms of your coaching business, even in terms of, all right, for the first 2 years, I'm going to suffer. But is there any kind of words of encouragement that you'd give yourself, even if you wouldn't change anything in terms of the journey that you went on to be a successful business owner?
It would probably be to reach out for probably to reach out for help a little bit sooner than I
Yeah,
did in terms of like a mentor.
yeah,
Just because it takes that thinking out before, and like you were saying, like you can learn from those sort of mistakes that you don't necessarily have to suffer.
yeah,
But it's kind of one of them, isn't it? Where not every, you can't afford a mentor at that point. Like it's very, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like two different paths, isn't it? You're either fortunate enough to be able to afford a mentor and go down that route, or you go through and you go that tough route where you suffer for those 2 years until you get to the point where you can go and do something like that.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's exactly right. Like I would say to myself as well, I would say reach out and get learn. What I did, what I actually regretted was actually not. So like I started off and I worked in a gym and then I went straight into me being the business owner and kind of figuring out for myself before I eventually kind of invested in mentorships, which was obviously really helpful and trajected what I knew and what I needed to know. But I think I would have liked to have, let's say, worked under someone who was really successful or effective before maybe going out on my own. Not to say like like my journey into the business that I created happened the way it created. Do you know what I mean? And it's the exact same as you're saying. But then I also see like coaches who maybe worked under someone who was very established and like when you're not the main man and you're kind of under someone and you're kind of watching and observing how effective they are in terms of how they run their business and how they treat people and how they show up for themselves. I think you can learn a lot very quickly to then be like, okay, I'm going to go out on my own now, but now I have all this kind of experience of observing someone else do it the way that they do it. I think that would be valuable.
yeah, kind of like an apprenticeship
Yeah,
essentially.
that's exactly what it would be like. I think
With a
I think
mentor.
that I think that would be really helpful for young coaches who, go out on their own straight away and be like, "Oh, I'm going to start my PT business." And then they're looking for clients and they're like, "Oh shit, this is actually really difficult. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to sell my services. I don't know about systems and stuff like that." Whereas, I do see some coaches who have worked under like really successful coaches. Like I was thinking about Maureen, who was at the event that we were at, and she worked under
Emma.
ESG, I think it was Emma Story Gordon, and I'm like, that's really valuable. Really valuable experience to then decide that right now I'm going to go out on my own and start my own coaching business.
Yeah, 100%. And again, that would have been an incredible position to be in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about fatherhood as well, because obviously, like you've seen, it's something that I'm quite vocal about. on my social medias as well. I can't wait to be a father, and I see you on Instagram, and like I see the way you show up, and I love it. I think it's amazing. So, what surprised you the most about becoming a father for the first time? You have three kids, isn't it?
Got three, yeah.
Three, yeah, yeah, yeah. What age were you when you had your first?
I was 27 when Esme was born. And I was still, so at that point, so Esme was kind of like the real sort of turning point of me looking at changing who I was as a person. Because I was still like an absolute like social hand grenade through those years with like alcohol through the army. So Esme was kind of like that first sort of wake up call for that when I started thinking about it. And then Hudson came along when I was 29, maybe nearly 30, I think.
Mhm.
So there's 18 months between them, 27, yeah, it was like 28, 29. And then I'd already quit drinking before that point. So before Hudson was born, while Laura was pregnant with Hudson. And the thing that really surprised me with that is that freedom. And I know everyone talks about like being a father, being a parent is an incredible. It's amazing, but also as well, no one really talks about the sort of the freedom side and things that you can no longer sort of do.
Yes.
Um, and that adjustment period through that time was quite challenging because before I was obviously living away Monday to Friday, not caring the world, and then come back and the weekends were my own sort of thing. But
Mm.
then obviously coming back for the weekends, then we had our little girl, so it was a little bit different. And I probably kind of rebelled for the first while, where I would just come back, quickly say hello, and then literally be the biggest piece of shit in the world and just go straight down the pub. For I don't really know what for, maybe just a crop.
Escapism, maybe.
I think it, yeah, I think so. And at this point as well, we weren't in our own house as well. We were
Mm.
living with Laura's mum, and it was just a real sort of
Close
stressful
confinement.
environment, very stressful environment. And I just used the only coping mechanism I knew,
Yeah.
which was to go down the pub and just run off.
Yeah, and I think a lot of men are dealing with that at the moment as well, because like obviously in Ireland now, like there's a housing crisis, and most men who are in their 30s are living in their girlfriend's or their wife's parents' house, and I know with my sister and her boyfriend, they had two kids and they were living in my dad's house, and there was about 10 of us in the house at the time. It was like a three or a four bed house, like it was very very confined, and like that can be difficult. That can be really difficult, I'd say.
It is, yeah. But then obviously when we moved into our own house, that pressure was sort of lifted a little bit. And it probably gave me that space to think a little bit clearer and think, right, okay, like now I'm an adult now. I've been an adult for a very long time, but I was like, this is me now becoming an adult. Like I can't be that person down the pub causing drama, running off, disappearing, like my missus having to ring people to find out where I am when I'm in someone's kitchen and I've been there for like 3 days. Like that can't happen anymore. Like I can't be that person. Like if my daughter was to grow up and I was still doing that, it'd just be like the worst thing ever. So it was I need to now become that role model, that I'm someone that she can look up to and be proud of. And also someone that isn't setting that example with obviously having two girls now. I want to make sure that they've got that strong father figure around so that they don't have to then, or it doesn't spill into that sort of the daddy issue sort of thing where they're going to seek like validation or love from somebody else who's going to potentially treat them wrong.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I think that's a really good lesson for people, or like a really good story to tell, because like I think people will have the misconception that okay, and you hear it all the time, and like I'm sure that's right as well, that like you have a child and that changes your life, but like you've kind of put it, is like sometimes it's a slow burner to, like any kind of transformation of your life or grow in terms of the person that you're becoming. Like it's not a an overday thing, is like okay, I was this person and now I'm this person. It's like it takes time, it takes steps.
Yeah, it's a very slow process. Like I'd be lying if like most people, right? Where if we like relate it back to sort of like diet, like Monday, that's it, starting it, never going back to doing this and this. Like when Esme was born, I was like in my head, right, yeah, not drinking anymore, not doing this, complete changed person. Of course, that's a load of bollocks. It's never going to happen like that. And it didn't happen like that. Like, generally, like 2 weeks after she was born, like I was down the pub causing drama. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a very slow process, but that was just one of those. Whether or not it sort of had to happen, but very quickly I came out of it once I'd realised I had a baby, and I was like, I can't be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, and
But
I've done it.
when you say it had to happen, sometimes I think sometimes it does have to happen because sometimes you have to feel that kind of pain, or how you feel after, and that's why sometimes I say like even with weight loss and stuff like that, like if you overeat or some whatever it is, like they're not mistakes, they're just lessons, and it's
Yeah.
like okay, this is a lesson that I have to learn. I'm feeling a certain way from doing a certain behavior. What can I learn from this? And I think sometimes you have to go through that kind of pain because we're like, if you don't, then it's like, all right, you're just the perfect human and you've never made any mistakes, and therefore you don't need to learn any lessons or to help you to grow as a person. Um, there's a great quote I love that I think it was Jordan Peterson said it, and it's like you fall forward when you're trying to kind of grow as a person. So you'll make mistakes, on your way up to being a better person. And I think that's completely normal that we go through them lessons.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And it's like people who know me now, it's like clients and whatnot, and like you, for example, like you'll see
The
the
polished version.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh look, he's a great dad. He's always with his kids. He's doing this. He's doing that. But then the old me, not that I wouldn't go round. I wasn't antisocial. I wouldn't go around being rude, mean, or anything like that. I was just a lad's lad. Like just loved it. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just that.
Yeah.
But they are completely two different people. But also that sort of behavior hurts people as well. Like people that love you most. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not respectful to them. And that's the one thing that really sort of had to change.
How do you balance being present as a dad with your kids and also trying to run a business? Because obviously that can be difficult for people to be when you're trying to run a business. You're almost thinking about it all the time, and like I notice myself even when I'm out with people or when I'm with my family, it's like trying not to think about the next task that I have to do and be like, oh, if I'm here, be here. Um, do you find that difficult or do you find it easy or?
No, so I've got a really strict regime that I follow. So I wake up at 3:30, straight into the ice bath. I'll then journal for 3 hours. I'll then go for a walk. No, I find it very difficult. There is like you were saying again, like routine is freedom essentially,
Yeah.
right? And it really is. So we try and keep as much routine as possible within the family. One, because it's great for the kids. So
Mhm.
like bed, bath, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Try and keep as regimented as possible because it helps regulate them. But that also gives us that sort of time left and right to do the things that we need to do. But if I'm being completely honest, like I'm not going to give the answer and a bullshit answer of,
Yeah.
oh, we do this, this, and this, and it makes life easy. It's very, very challenging, and it doesn't go to plan. Like 9 times out of 10, it doesn't go to plan. Like just before, obviously, I came on here, it was complete chaos. My little boy he was on the toilet, had to go and wipe his bum. There was like the little one, I was putting her in a carry cart ready to get her in the car. Esme was running around in the garden with no shoes on. They were about to go out, and I'm like, your feet need cleaning. Like it's just chaos all the time. But you've got to kind of live in that chaos.
Yeah.
I tried to fight it for like so many years. Like Esme now, she's like 7 next month. Hudson's 5, and Havana's like 4 months old. So those two have been really good learning curve at me not running around constantly trying to be like, oh, I need to tidy this, need to do this, need to do
Mm.
this, and just get consumed in that stress. So, I mean, I'm not saying I don't do that still. I definitely do, but I take more of a step back and I'm just like, I laugh at the chaos that goes around. Like I just look around and just sort of embrace it and just it's kind of cool to be fair and just laugh at it and then just try and pick the pieces up as I go.
Yeah, and that's some of my favorite content of yours as well. The kids are running around riot and you're trying to do some sort of an activity and stuff like that. I really enjoy that. What values are important to you to pass on to your children?
So the main values to me would be one of them would be courage
Mm,
um, to pass on. I mean, this is important whether you've got boys or girls, but to speak up if something isn't right and to sort of voice that opinion and be brave enough to do so in any sort of situation, because that'll be important through wherever, right, and have those sort of difficult conversations. And that's one thing that we are really proud of. Like if something isn't going right, whether it is in their sort of nursery setting or they're out somewhere, they'll either, if it's to another human or like another person, they'll say like no or whatever. They'll vocally sort of speak it out to them, which then alerts us. But also they'll come and tell us if anything's going wrong. So I think that's very important for children to sort of have and to instill in them, because I know a lot of children won't. And they'll sort of keep things quiet, and then that can obviously cause bigger problems
mm.
if something happens. So trying to instill that they can, like, their voice is important and having that courage.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
big one.
Is there anything else?
Um, I say honesty, courage and honesty are the two main ones that we do try and instill in them. And the way that we try and get like honesty across is obviously kids love to lie and they love to tell a tale like all the time. And it's very difficult to distinguish what's real and what isn't. So if they've ever done anything wrong, or we suspect that they've done something wrong, like for example, like the other day, my little boy took the head off his electric toothbrush and drilled a hole through the plasterboard in the living room, and it's all over the sofa. And I know he did it, right, but I couldn't prove it because he'd ran off and whatnot. So the way that we try and get around that is instead of like screaming and shouting, which is naturally going to withdraw them and they're going to lie because they don't want to get in trouble,
Yeah.
we just say, look, you're not in trouble. We just want to know what's wrong so we can obviously fix it and then we can move on. Like, you're not going to be in trouble. So that sort of parenting style that we have encourages them to tell the truth a little bit more and be a bit more honest, because I know that there's not going to be a huge repercussion from that, and then we'll just have
Yeah,
a
I
conversation
like
about it.
that. It's like you're creating a safe environment where kids or whether it's clients to have the
Yeah,
ability to be able to be open and honest and vulnerable or whatever case
yeah.
may be. Yeah, I love that. Do you do anything for yourself? Anything to reset? Because obviously, being a dad of three, running a coaching business, being a partner, um, is there anything that you do for yourself to recharge the batteries or to fill your own cup up?
There's two things that I really like doing. One of them, most people tell me I can't use that as like a a way to relax because it's exercise.
Mm.
It's training, which kind of isn't. It's stressful, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
And if
it's
I
it's
don't
stress that you
train,
it's stress that you can handle and you enjoy.
yeah, like if I don't, like for example, like since Havana's been born, it's been very difficult. Like I thought having an extra one wouldn't really make too much of a difference, and it doesn't. But in terms of logistics of me sort of nipping to the gym and all that sort of stuff, it's put a big dampener on that. So I'm lucky if I get like one or two training sessions a week at the moment. So it's trying to navigate that, but training's one, and then the next thing is
Sorry, I
so
I I want to touch on that real quick because there will be dads listening to this who probably are going through probably have similar hectic schedules, whether it's with working kids and stuff like that. Um, being able to like, and also that's breaking down barriers that, well, like if you can get two sessions in a week, you're doing really well and you can still maintain. And what tell me a little bit about them two sessions. Is it more so for stress relief, mental health? Is it how do you structure them sessions? How long do you get into the gym? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's mainly for that stress release,
Yeah.
to give me energy. I notice I'm very energized when I come back and I'll just blitz the whole house. Dishwasher gets done, tumble dryers on. I'm just absolutely on it. But yeah, the mental health aspect as well. I find I'm not as I'm way more optimistic when I've trained, and I can see things like I can see the rainbow, like I can see the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So that's really important, but the way that I structure them sessions, I'm a member at a High Rocks gym. So the classes are put on, so it's like a typical sort of CrossFit box style, where the classes are put on for you. So I go up and attend one or two classes a week, one strength class, and I jump on an endurance class, just so I get sort of best of both worlds with that. At the minute, it's a bench block, and I've just done 100, one rep max, big dog. So
I
well,
love it.
I'm well happy with that. But But yeah, just those two things there. That's me managing to sort of maintain my strength
Yeah.
with that, which I was really, really pleased about. But also the social aspect as well. Like the people up there
Mm.
absolutely love it. It's absolutely class. Like at the end of every session, the coach, everyone that's there, don't even know some of them, know most people up there, just a good old fist bump and just encouraging each other. And to be part of that community is, yeah, it's nice, man. And it's talking to actual people instead of like little people that have got a proper attitude. So,
Giving you abuse all day.
yeah, literally getting like mentally and emotionally abused on a daily basis. To go up there and be spoken to like an adult, it's no point.
Josh, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to ask you one more question. What advice would you have, or what advice would you give to someone who, is potentially about to be a father for the first time, or has aspirations to be a great dad one day? What advice would you give them from your experience?
My advice on this would be: who do you want your children to sort of look up to? What do you want them to say about you when you're older? Like, 'cause I know well, particularly sort of my friends don't really have a good relationship with their mom or with their dad. And obviously they're adults now. And there was a really interesting, I can't remember who said it, but it was like obviously when you're little, you believe sort of like your parents, they know everything, you look up to them. And then all of a sudden when you become older, you look at them and think you're absolutely full of shit. Like you it's like you see them sort of thing. And I don't want my kids to ever have that opinion about me. I always want to be that person that they can sort of either look up to and sort of confide in. So I try and live and be the person that I want them to sort of look up to and speak positively about. So I
Mm.
try and like act upon that on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing as well, is like, when you say act, because I think a lot of people can fall into the trap of, telling someone what to do versus showing them what to do by being the example. Like the second one is far more powerful.
Yeah, and anyone that's got kids, like actions speak louder than words. Like you can tell your kids, please don't do this, do that, and they don't listen to a word you say. But then you start doing certain things and taking action on it, they will start to mimic that, and then you've cracked it, and then you've passed on that. Especially if you exercise or you speak positively about yourself or whatever, they then start doing that.
Yeah.
Like that
I
is
love I love them little videos online where it's like the dad's working out in the garage or something like that. He's doing a
yeah.
deadlift, and then the little toddler's behind him with his little small bar, like replicating what he's doing.
Yeah, it was like last summer. I was doing overhead squats with a barbell in the garden,
Yeah.
and I just set the video up. The kids weren't out there at this point, and then Esme, my eldest, come running out, and there wasn't any bars out there, so I was doing that. She picked up the little table that they've got, put it over her head, and started doing overhead squats with this table. It's class.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Listen, if anyone wanted to reach out to you and ask any questions or follow up on coaching, where can they go to find you?
On Instagram, and the Instagram handle is at Hubbard Fitness.
All right, deadly. Okay, well, we'll leave all the information in the show notes. Listen, thank you so much for today. I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Cheers, Carv. Pleasure.